Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Real Talk Bougie. Guys, this is a interesting story I came across and I we got to talk about it, okay? This is a young woman by the name of Jazmiin Paez, and she went to a like bogus website called Rent a Hitman, and she was trying to rent a hitman to take out her 3-year-old. It's pretty unbelievable, but she did, and this is what happened. Let's get into it. This happened actually in 2023, where this was initially tracked, and she was arrested. And fast forward to last week, she was in court, and we will let that unfold how this whole thing finally got adjudicated. But this really could have been very serious, and it actually really is still very serious, despite the fact that the worst did not happen. But
Developing now, just a horrific story. An 18-year-old.
Let's go here first. So leading up to that she's arrested. So obviously, we know who this is. This is Judge Glazer. If you follow first appearances and hearings, bond hearings in Miami-Dade, this is Judge Mindy Glazer, and she showed up in front of Judge Mindy, and this is what happened.
Jazmiin Paez facing criminal charges for allegedly trying to hire someone for $3,000 to kill her young child.
She's 18. She went on a website to hire a hitman.
Kill her 3-year-old son.
What?
To kill her own child?
That website is rentahitman.com. Robert Inez created it for a cybersecurity project, but over the years it received criminal solicitations. This week it was allegedly from Paez.
The ability to research names and addresses and verify that the intended target lived at a particular address, that to me is a red flag. I mean, if that information is corroborated, then obviously there's something more that needs to be looked at. And that's why I referred it.
Paez allegedly explained in an online forum she wanted a hitman to get something done once and for all, adding she wanted the boy taken away far, far away and possibly killed by Thursday. Paez allegedly sent recent pictures of what the baby looked like, and out of the thousands of requests Robert gets a day, he knew this one was real because of how specific she was. He called police, but apparently Miami-Dade didn't believe him at first.
They were not interested. They sent me an email saying that, hey, if I contacted them one more time, they were going to send me a cease and desist letter.
Eventually, a detective was put on the case. The officer texted Paez,
Can you believe
like
that?
a hitman, and she allegedly agreed to pay him $3,000 for the job. The woman was later arrested, and she allegedly confessed.
No contact with this child, either directly, indirectly, in person, in writing, by telephone, or through third parties.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News.
Okay, so let's go over to this one.
Developing now, just a horrific story. An 18-year-old mother bonding out after being accused of the unthinkable.
Yeah, police say she tried to hire a hitman to kill her own 3-year-old son. Local 10 News reporter Syra Anwar is live outside the jail in West Miami-Dade.
I know you have the latest on this murder for hire plot that, I mean, it was just all of us are shaking our heads about this one.
Absolutely. If you read the arrest report, Christy, it is unbelievable. I tried to talk to this woman as she was leaving the jail this morning. I asked her what she thought about these charges. She had no comment, but these allegations against her are very serious and very disturbing.
Did you hire a hitman to kill your son?
No comment from Jazmiin Paez as she walks out of the county correctional center alone, out on bond.
Jazmiin, do you have any comment on what you're accused of?
18-year-old Paez is accused of trying to hire a hitman online to kill her 3-year-old son. Documents say she was soliciting a hitman from a website, but didn't know the site was actually made to alert authorities to attempts just like this one. The arrest report says the online request reason was, quote, to get something done once and for all, end quote, and included a photo of the little boy. Paez allegedly then offered a hitman, who was actually a detective, $3,000 for the job. Paez was arrested Wednesday night after authorities tracked the IP address from the hitman request to Paez and verified her phone as the one used to text the detective, whom she thought was a hitman. In fact, a detective says the hitman website was still active on her phone's web browser. She was booked into TGK, a Miami-Dade bond court judge setting her bond at $15,000. Now, the judge ordered that Paez must stay away from that child, who is currently under the care of a grandparent. But what happens next as far as that child's custody is not yet clear. We are working on getting that update for you. That is the very latest from West Miami-Dade County. Syra Onwer, Local 10 News. One used to text the...
Okay, guys. All right. Let me pull this up really quick. Okay, so this is the arrest report. But yeah, this actually played out in court this week. So this has been finally adjudicated. So 2 years later, but let's get into this. So on July 12th, excuse me, let me see. Let me make this bigger so you guys can see. All right. On July 18th, Bob Innes contacted Miami-Dade Police Department to report a possible murder for hire. Bob Innes runs and operates a parody hit for hire website where people can solicit and inquire ways of hiring a hitman. The website is called rentahitman.com. The website is designed to prevent legitimate solicitations to commit murders and intended to assist law enforcement agencies. At approximately 12:30 p.m., Mr. Bob Innes received a service request through his website. The request contains specific information of the intended victim, minor CGP, to include the address, which is located within Miami-Dade County, and a recent photo. The service request included the requester's information, which was listed as Daphne Bellamy, and a email address of spicymonoh@blank.com. The address we will leave out. That the job needed to be completed by Thursday, July 20th. A desire code /safe word put me in coach. The reason listed was to get something done once and for all. Lastly, the exact service requested was to be taken away, far, far away, and possibly killed, but ASAP. Bob Innes' website records the IP addresses that the requester uses when completing the service request, which he provided to the detective. The IP address was records check of the IP address listed the provider as Comcast. At 7 p.m., I was contacted by Sergeant Carolina Zapata, who advised me of the aforementioned facts. The records check of the number provided on the service request was contacted, which revealed the phone number listed as registered to two individuals, Yahara Santiago and Jazmiin Paez. The records check of the address for the requester was contacted, which revealed two residents, Justo Paez and Jazmiin Paez. I contacted the Comcast emergency law enforcement line for exigent circumstances, in which I provided details on the current case, and based on the facts they provided, the registered individual linked to the IP address. Comcast provided the name of Claudia Valderrama, which the address on 74th Street. The address matched the address used for the requester and the service request on the Rent a Hitman website. At the time, Miami-Dade detectives and I responded to the intended victims, minor CGP residents, in the attempts to make contact upon arrival. I made contact with Miss Yahara Santiago and Zaskia Ternillo. Both Miss Santiago and Ms. Ternillo advised me that the intended victim, CGP, lives with them and was upstairs sleeping. Ternillo stated that the intended victim is her grandson and he's 3 years old. Miss Ternillo continued to explain that her daughter, Jazmiin Paez, is the mother and is currently residing with her father, Justo Paez, on 74th Avenue. Miss Ternillo further stated that as of May 31st, 2023, Jazmiin no longer resides at the residence with her son, the intended victim, but CGP remained living with her. Ms. Ternillo added that Jazmiin's FaceTimes her son daily through the phone. I showed Ms. Ternillo the photo that was provided on the Rent a Hitman website of the intended victim and stated that she had taken the picture on Monday, July 17th, when she picked up the intended victim from school and sent it to her daughter, Jazmiin. Ms. Ternillo explained that she only sent the picture to Jazmiin and proceeded to show me the text message on her phone. Ms. Ternillo also confirmed that her daughter, Jazmiin's cell number is blank. Miami-Dade Department detectives contacted the state attorney's office and obtained an exigent authorization to obtain a pin register to locate the subject, Paez. Detective Scott Ogden was contacted and advised the information. Detective Ogden used the equipment to triangulate the phone number and located the phone. Simultaneously, Detective Kevin Rodriguez was engaged in a text conversation with the phone number provided, acting as the hired hitman with the requester. The requester confirmed the identity provided on the original service request on the website and agreed to pay the hitman $3,000. Miami-Dade police detectives and I responded to 500 Northwest 74th and made contact with Justo and Jazmiin. Jazmiin Paez was placed in custody pending the investigation and transported to Miami-Dade Police Department headquarters building for a formal interview. Ms. Jazmiin Paez was presented her Miranda warning per the form, which she signed and waived. Ms. Jazmiin Paez confessed to having the hitman on her having put a hit on her own son through the Rent a Hitman website. Jazmiin Paez stated that she was in a romantic relationship over a year with a male named Jaramil Sosa Avelo, who didn't like the fact that she had a son. Jaramil Sosa Avelo recently broke up with Miss Paez for the exact reason that she had her child/son. Mr. Sosa Avila told Miss Paez to get rid of her son. Jazmiin Paez thought that by hiring a hitman and having her son killed, that Jaramil Sosa Avila would take her back. Jazmiin Paez gave written consent to search her phone where the messages between her and the alleged hitman, Detective Rodriguez, were observed. Jazmiin Paez also has the Rent a Hitman website still in her web browser and had conversation with Gamiel Sosa Avila where she stated to him that's being taken care of, referring to her son. DCF was notified. Agent Janae. Jazmiin Paez was arrested and transported to TGK. My God. Okay. This woman right here. Anyway, okay. So fast forward. Let's go fast forward into the and let me pull this up. So fast forward to the future, which is now. So this happened initially. Well, let's go here first. This happened initially July of 2023, as you can see right here. This file was opened July 19th, 2023, and this was actually closed on the 23rd, which was Monday. Spoiler alert, it's looking like she got 14 years of probation. So I guess we're going to hear the stipulations. She's really lucky that this didn't go very far. I guess it went far enough for her to be on probation for 14 years, but I would imagine that the stipulations probably still include having little to nothing with her son. I would imagine. I don't know. Maybe parenting classes. I'm not really sure. But at the time she was 18 years old, clearly not thinking clearly, and I don't know, I'm sure it would I'm almost assuming this would include some mental evaluations, counseling, all kinds of things, but let's get into the hearing and hear exactly what happened. This is crazy. So here we are. This happened on Monday. Let's get into it.
On behalf of Ms. Paez. Derek Morales, on behalf of Ms. Paez, who was present here before the court.
And Ms. Paez speaks English?
Correct, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
Ms. Duncan, you're holding me in suspense.
No more suspense, Your Honor.
Thank you.
We have a plea,
Okay.
negotiated plea, defense counteroffer that the state is going to be accepting if the court
Can you
will ratify
let's
it.
back up for 1 second? Can you tell me what it is that she scores, or is there any amendment that's taking place here?
Nope, it will be on the charges as
Okay.
they are in the information.
What does she score? Forgive me
Yes.
for 1 second. Folks, if I could have you all please try to keep it down as much as you can. Once again, it's ricocheting off the walls. Thank you. All right, back to you, Ms. Duncan. What does she globally score?
Yes, Your Honor. She scores 49.8 months state prison. That equates to about four
A
years,
little over 4 years.
up to 35 years in state prison, Judge, for those charges.
Any minimum mandatories here?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, and so what's the global resolution here?
Yes, Your Honor. The state will be accepting withhold of adjudication, 2 years of community control, followed by 12 years of reporting probation, special conditions to include behavioral therapy.
Hold on. I'll come back to that in a second. Go on.
Yes, sir. A jobs core program,
Job what?
jobs core, like JOBSCORE. I believe there's a jobs core program that they can enforce. She looks for jobs. It's my understanding that the defendant has obtained her AA degree. There will be a mental health evaluation and treatment if deemed necessary.
No substance abuse?
No, Your Honor, not for this. There will be a stay away order, Your Honor, from the minor victim in this case. I'll give the initials to the court. Second.
Can I have a copy of the arrest affidavit and the information here, please?
Yes. I'll let the court know that as well. Do you have the?
Just first impression regarding the judge. The judge is highly engaged. It sounds like she could have spent at least 4 to 35 years in jail if convicted. So she's getting, I don't want to say a sweet deal, but a sweet deal. I think maybe they're taking into account that there are some challenges here. She was also 18, and maybe based on the threat and it being intercepted before it went too far, she's very lucky because the child could have been hurt. Her mother, who is the one who is caring for the child, could have been hurt. Many people could have been hurt, including, and most, I don't want to say most importantly, but the actual subject of the hit. So yeah, bad.
I just didn't want to interrupt the court because he's reading.
So if the judge is reading the actual criminal complaint, basically he's reading now, what I just read to you. You know, I just want to say this too. Oftentimes we see a lot of these stories and we think about, the footprint of our social media. And I do really feel sorry for this child who's going to have to grow up and understand that he did not have the benefit of his mother. He's growing up with grandma, which is perfectly fine. But, you know, there is a miss there of not having your mother and learning and having to probably soak in and understand that your mom at 18 was willing to hire a hitman to erase you from the planet because there was a particular guy that she wanted to be with over being a mom, which is really awful. Just a horrible, very sad set of circumstances. So, all right, let's get back into this.
To enforce that as a part of this next part.
What is the status of the parental rights here?
That was the next part of the plea, Judge. They have been terminated, Judge, and we want to enforce that as a part of this plea. I was going to give the court the dependency number case for that. Her parental rights have been terminated, Judge. She should have no access to the child moving forward, not in criminal court, neither criminal court nor dependency court.
Okay, so parental rights have been terminated, which is, look, that is the best thing. But the really sad thing is that the mother, her mother, is taking care of this child, which means if she has no contact with the minor child, then she's going to have no contact with her mother. Apparently, she was living with her father prior to this incident. And I mean, this is just really sad for the family that this mother chose to want to get rid of her child, but she's also now severed the relationship with her and her mother. This is just a completely fractured family. It's really, really sad.
Judge, now provide for that. Her parental rights have been terminated, Judge. She should have no access to the child moving forward, not in criminal court, neither criminal court nor dependency court, Judge. Now provide Your Honor with the dependency number for which this plea should also take heed that her rights have been terminated. For what it's worth, Judge, the initials of the minor child is C, like a cat, and P like Paul. Providing Madam Clerk with his date of birth. And if Your Honor would like, I have no problem putting on the record the basis for the plea and what the mitigating factors were, please, for concern, before ratifying it. There are numerous reasons, Judge, for why this is the resolution, inevitably.
Yeah, I'd like to hear that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Obviously, these are quite concerning allegations, Judge. The defendant
Well,
is.
the court has just taken an opportunity to review the arrest affidavit.
Yes.
And clearly there brings great cause.
Yes, Your Honor.
Great pause to this court for a withhold, first and foremost,
Mhm.
and for all of these other conditions.
Yes, sir. And this is something that I thoroughly discussed with my chief assistant, Ms. Kathleen Hogue. We've had several discussions about this case, Judge. For the record, the defendant is charged with solicitation of murder of her minor biological son.
Also,
He is now,
3 at the time.
yes, I believe he's 5 now, if I'm not mistaken, if my math serves me correct, Judge. This is her biological child. She was a teenage mother when she had him. It is questionable about whether or not he is the product of an incestual relationship. I don't know. I don't want to speculate about that, but there are questions surrounding her even becoming pregnant with that child at the age in which she did. The father was never involved in the child's life. The paternal and maternal grandparents to the child, who happen to be the biological parents of this defendant, have been involved in the child's life. The defendant presents with no visible mental health disabilities on record, Judge. However, there are physical deformities and such that have been the basis for a lot of issues. Growing up, a lot of bullying, a lot of issues in school. The defendant had this child, was ill-equipped to take care of her child. The parents were taking care of the child. it appears as if she met an individual, became acquainted with this person, another young teenager, and did not advise him that she had a child. Upon realizing that she had a child, he dumped her, and she was devastated. And there are allegations that he may have been kind of the catalyst or impetus for her even trying to carry out this plot, because essentially it was get rid of the child if you want me back. Now, granted, Ms. Paez is responsible for her own actions. Inevitably, she contacted what she believed was a Hitman website. As it turns out, and thankfully and luckily for the minor child, it in fact was not a true website, Judge. This was a parody website originating in California. The owner of said website had been deposed. If you recall, Mr. Morales and I, we actually physically flew to California to have the owner deposed. And essentially, this was a parody website. Nothing was actually going to be carried out. Thankfully, the child was never harmed, but she did fill out what she believed was a form advising to essentially get rid of, she wants to be done with this once and for all. That can be indicative of a lot of things. Obviously, from the state's perspective, it's that she was soliciting someone to potentially murder her child. But there's room for interpretation about what that actually meant, especially given that things came out at the deposition that this was in fact a parody site, and for proof basis, whether or not we'd be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she herself really meant to carry it out. Furthermore, Judge, no money was exchanged for this particular solicitation. She was placed in contact with a member of the police department who was pretending to be the hitman, and conversations were had initially, and then they ceased. And so nothing was followed through with, Judge, as far as money exchange to carry out any action. That being said, based on the indicators on the application that Ms. Paez filled out, we were able to ascertain that this child does exist. Of course, this baby was alive, was residing at the address in which she put. Yeah, he's a child. Okay, he's an infant, Judge.
This is an infant.
Correct. I don't want to misspeak. I'm not sure that makes it better, right? Infant, baby, it's all bad. The point is, she solicited this site and put information in the fields that would corroborate that this child does reside there, does live there. And so a wellness check was carried out, and they realized that the child was there, notified the maternal grandmother who was in custody of the child. And this is how this case came to fruition.
Who has custody of this one?
The maternal grandmother, Judge, and
Adopted the child.
she adopted the child formally. Now,
As a termination.
Wait.
Fine.
Maternal grandmother.
correct. The defendant's mom. Yes, the defendant's mother.
Wasn't that the same person that was in charge of caring for the child at the time of this alleged incident?
Not really, Judge.
Who was the minor living with at the time?
Sure. If I may.
Go ahead, Mr.
Sure.
Morales.
So
For that.
my client being in high school at the time, both the maternal and paternal grandparents were 99% active in watching over the child while she was attending high school.
Right.
So it wasn't necessarily that the child was with one or the other parent, grandparent. As a result of the termination of parental rights case in children's court, the court there found the grandmother to be most suitable and went through the process to adopt the child as a result of her parental rights being terminated. She has not had any contact with the child.
The child is now residing with the defendant's mother.
That is
Correct.
correct, Judge.
Okay.
And she lives with her father, considering that at the time she was still in high school.
Yes, Your Honor.
Question. So the issue
Yes.
is where, in light of the contemplated stay away order,
Yes, ma'am. Or yes, sir.
where is Ms. Paez going to live?
She's currently residing with her paternal biological father, and he's actually present in court today. He's been present at every court hearing, Judge, in support of his daughter, for what it's worth. And since the inception of this case, he has been the one to, bond her out of jail. She has been released on pretrial release conditions, Judge. So she hasn't been sitting in a jail cell all these years. She has been, since this case has been pending, out on bond, out on pretrial release conditions with no violations in the care custody of her father. And that was another factor that the state took into account. How would we facilitate a plea whereby we protect the child's interests, make sure she's not in contact with said child, but that she's in an environment where she can actually be held accountable for the things that she needs to do. And looking at Ms. Paez's progress, not that I'm giving her any brownie points, I think there's something to be said about being on pretrial release conditions for as many years as she has without violations, but it's what she also did in that time. She graduated from high school successfully. She is in the process of almost successfully completing her associate's degree from Miami-Dade College. There's something to be said about that. And this is why we didn't just throw an adjudication on her record, Judge. I'm not the creator here. I can't speak for what she did. She's got to answer for that. But this is someone with no priors. This is not a situation where we give PTI, of course. And this is a situation where Mr. Morales asked the state for YO sanctions in light of her being the age that she was when she did this and having no criminal record. And the state said no, because that wasn't severe enough. So here's the middle ground. You'll get a withhold because maybe, just maybe, there might be a light at the end of the tunnel for this defendant. It can go left or right, Judge. Like you've seen so many defendants come before you in the past. She has a chance to correct this and be a better person. So this is why we didn't throw an adjudication at her. So withhold of adjudication, it would be 2 years of community control. That's pretty stringent. Subsequent to that, it will be 12 years of reporting probation. And she better complete those conditions successfully, or she knows she very well might be before Your Honor or this court in the future on a violation.
Thank you, Ms. Duncan. Ms. Morales, on the behavioral therapy special condition, is there a time element that this is going to be imposed upon? Is it for the entire 14 years? That's what I don't understand.
Sure. So my understanding was that it would be based on the necessity after she went through a mental health evaluation. And if I could remind the court that
I'm looking at two different components from what was explained to me by the state.
Yeah.
One is that she's going to be required to engage or continue in behavioral therapy. The other one is a mental health evaluation.
Okay.
So I'm not assuming those.
Okay.
Right.
If I'm wrong, then I would like to get that clarified.
It's not.
Because usually it's a mental health evaluation and treatment if it's deemed necessary. It sounds to me that with the behavioral therapy, it's taking place or will take place. And I'd like to know for how long.
Sure. Well, Judge, as part of the plea, we're open and give deference to the state and the court regarding if she needs that to go on for a certain amount of time. Even the mental outside of.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think she absolutely needs it because at the end of the day, this is a young woman who probably was pregnant at 14. So she was having sex at a very early age. She got pregnant. She had a child at 15. She hires a hitman at 18 to kill a 3-year-old. Her critical thinking and just her reasoning ability to kind of think things out reasonably, and obviously there's some sort of disconnect there in doing what's right. And also as far as handling relationships and understanding what's right and what's wrong, she sounds like she needs a lot of help. And obviously she's with her father. I don't know what the disconnect was. Sometimes you could have great parents and horrible kids, and you can have wonderful kids and horrible parents, and any other combination in between. But I think she absolutely needs help. And because, let's just look at Jodi Arias. Let's look at so many other people. Casey Anthony. This is somebody who could be a Jodi Arias or Casey Anthony. That's immediately what my mind thinks of, right? So also when you think about the probation or the community supervision, the length that she's going to be on, her child at that point will be 18, 19 years old, right? So I guess that would be the point where this child won't be a child anymore, will be 19, and I guess that would be up. I don't know if she's not allowed to contact this person for life. Maybe I missed that part, but there's no contact order, at least during the time of this probation, but maybe it is no contact for life. Anyway, let's finish this up. But yeah, this is, and I like how the judge is asking lots of questions.
Of whether it's an assessment and she needs it or not. We also believe that that will go on for as long as the doctors that are taking care of her say it's deemed. If they said, hey, continue doing this as long as you're on the probation for the next 10 years, or if she found to complete some sort of requirement.
Okay.
But I give deference to the state there.
True or false? She's currently engaged in behavioral therapy, yes or no?
No.
She's not. Okay. So then I guess these are then to be assumed. She's going to be required to undergo a mental health evaluation.
Yes, sir.
And then depending on that treatment, or depending on that evaluation outcome, if treatment's deemed necessary, then she's going to be required to complete the treatment. Is that correct?
Your Honor, I understood it to be two independent things. And I'm not trying to confuse Your Honor in any way. Your question.
I'd like it to be clarified because I'm looking at it as two different things as well.
Yes, Your Honor, and the court's question is valid. My understanding is a mental health assessment and treatment is just that. It's an assessment and treatment for mental health needs that could potentially include behavior cognitive therapy.
Okay.
But if we make it a mandatory requirement, separate and apart from any evaluation, I think that would be something additional. So I don't see the advocate or whatever program is going to be facilitating these conditions not taking heed with, hey, she needs a behavioral therapy treatment, and we're also doing a mental health assessment because there could be other mental health issues for which she also needs treatment. I just know that behavioral therapy is something that I want to make mandatory condition, separate and apart from what might be determined at a mental health assessment.
Mr. Morales?
Agreed, Your Honor.
Okay. And counsels, counselor, like you both, I'd like to thank you both for giving me that information as far as the mitigating circumstances and that they're duly noted on the record. Mr. Morales, your client's going to be accepting this resolution. I have it as a withhold 2 years community control, followed by 12 years reporting probation, the requirement to undergo behavioral therapy until and such time that the provider, the medical provider, deems it no longer necessary for her to proceed with that. She's going to maintain the job score requirement program, mental health evaluation and treatment if it's deemed necessary from that, and a stay away order from the minor with the initials of CP, which, as I understand it, her parental rights have already been previously terminated by a court with proper jurisdiction. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor, dependency court. I would like, though, to put do you have the dependency court number?
No, I can't find it.
I
just don't have my laptop.
That we have something also in this plea that speaks to, defendant's parental rights terminated.
What's the case number?
I thought we had it.
Yeah, sorry, Judge. I thought I had it too. It's the one that I didn't bring my laptop with me.
There's no shortage of computers here in the courtroom, folks.
Right.
Can't be that difficult to find out.
Yeah, I'd like to just put that. I'd like to include that, Judge.
I'll tell you what, why don't you all do that? I'm going to take just a brief recess for break. We'll come back in 5 minutes.
Sure.
All right. So we'll return at 11:11. We're off the record. Okay. Okay, we're on the record, folks. The time is 11:13 a.m. and we're back on the record on Monday, March 23rd, 2026. Addressing the case of the state of Florida versus Miss Jazmiin Paez, F23 14366. Let the record reflect that counsel for the state is present before the court. Counsel for Ms. Paez is present before the court. Ms. Paez is present before the court. Folks, we took a brief recess in order for you folks to have an opportunity to acquire the dependency court case number. Did anybody find it?
Yes, that's correct, Your Honor. The dependency court case number is D22 15473.
D-22-15473?
That's correct, Judge.
Okay.
In Miami-Dade County.
Yes. Okay.
And Your Honor, just in discussing with the state, refreshing on the mitigating circumstances, Judge, because there's been some time that has passed and was really focused on specific things throughout the history of this case. It was important for the court to know that Ms. Paez did undergo a mental health evaluation in this case, where we went to the JAC and were able to get an expert, which that report was given to the state. It confirmed Ms. Paez being diagnosed with schizophrenia and having episodes during the time and connected to the case before here. So I just wanted to bring that up because Ms. Duncan and her excellent way of telling the court everything that happened, that's just one of the things that kind of got lost in translation there.
Okay. And thank you for that, Mr. Morales. Is your client, I assume, is going to be accepting this proposition. Is that right?
Yes, Judge. With grace to the state and the courts.
Ms. Paez, I'd like you to come up to the microphone. Can we move that microphone a little bit closer so it's a little comfortable? Ms. Paez, I'm going to ask you to please raise your right hand for me. Do you swear to affirm the testimony you provide today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the whole truth under penalty of perjury? So help you God. Please say, I do.
I do.
Thank you, ma'am. You can put your hand down. Please state your name for the record and your date of birth, please.
Jazmiin Paez, May 29, 2005.
How far did you get in school, ma'am?
I got all the way into high school, and I am on my way to get my associates in science.
Okay. Do you have any history of mental illness?
I had a history of PTSD and the schizophrenia.
Okay. I wasn't necessarily asking for any diagnosis. I was just simply asking yes or no whether you've had a history of mental illness, and it seems to be yes. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Are you currently, in light of that answer, are you currently under the influence of any drugs, alcohol, or medication that would affect your ability to not understand what we're doing today?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Paez, you're before this court today because the state of Florida charged you with 3 felony counts. The first one being first-degree murder or solicitation of first-degree murder, which is a felony in the first degree. The second one is communication, unlawful use of communications device, which is a felony in the third degree, and tampering with or fabricating physical evidence, also a felony in the third degree. Your attorney, Mr. Morales, previously entered a plea of not guilty on your behalf on these 3 counts and requests that the matter be set for trial. We're actually here today for trial. And my understanding is if this proceeded to trial and a jury of your peers found you guilty of these offenses, Ms. Duncan informed me what the sentencing guidelines would be. I'm going to stop there for 1 second. I've had an opportunity to review the arrest affidavit in this case when you were arrested back on July 18th of 2023. And so I have some understanding of the incident, if you will, that gave rise to you being here today. However, what would be presented at trial, I don't know what that would be. I would be sitting here just like the jury would, watching and listening to the testimony of the witnesses, and the introduction of evidence would be occurring as I would be sitting here just as it would in front of the jury. So I don't know all of those items that would be presented at trial. Okay?
Yes.
All right. Now, having said that, I've had an opportunity to review the arrest affidavit and the information in this case. If this proceeded to trial and a jury found you guilty of these offenses, Ms. Duncan informed me that the sentencing guidelines presented to the court at the bottom would be 49.8 months state prison, which is just over 4 years in state prison. Okay? Up to a maximum sentence of 35 years in state prison.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I misspoke. It's 40 years is the
I
maximum.
was going to say that
Yeah,
35
sorry.
doesn't seem right because it's
No,
5 and
40.
5 with the 30.
Correct.
So it's 40
40.
actually.
I misspoke.
So on the high end, if you will, the maximum sentence you'd be facing is 40 years in state prison. I've also been informed that through negotiations with your attorney and through the discovery process, your attorney and the state attorney's office have come to a resolution that will avoid the need of this matter proceeding to trial. And my understanding of this resolution is as follows. You're going to change your plea and you're going to plead guilty to all three of these counts. The court will find you guilty, but the court's going to withhold adjudication. Now that's very important. And I'm going to stop there for 1 second. I'm sure Mr. Morales has gone over this with you, but the withhold of adjudication, there are a lot of terms that are tossed around in courtrooms that don't make a lot of sense to people outside of this room. Withhold of adjudication means that it does not result in you becoming a convicted felon and all the consequences that come with that. So there will be a withhold of adjudication as to all three counts. The court will be sentencing you today, however, based on your admission or your plea of guilty. And the conditions of your sentencing are as follows. Number one, you're going to be placed on 2 years of community control supervision. And that's kind of like a heightened form of probation for 2 years of that. Then that's going to be followed by 12 years of reporting probation. If I'm doing my math right, that puts it at roughly the year 2040 that you're going to be on probation. We're in 2026. You're going to be on some form of probation until the year 2040. There's also several special conditions that are required here. Number one, you are going to have to undergo behavioral therapy, and you're going to continue that therapy up until a time that the provider, whoever the medical provider is, whether it's a psychologist or a psychiatrist that'll be providing that therapy, whoever it is that the provider is that's providing that therapy to you will say that you're no longer in need of it. You're going to be required to maintain job score programming, which is to indicate to the court that you're engaged and employed actively. You're also going to be required to undergo a mental health evaluation and treatment if it's deemed necessary after that evaluation. And the court is going to be executing what's called a stay away order, directing you to stay away from the victim in this case, the minor with the initials of CP. You're going to be required to keep a distance of no less than 500 feet from that person throughout the entire duration that you're on probation. So all 14 years. And the court will also be indicating for the purposes of the record that based on the outcome of what occurred in this county's dependency court, case number D22-15473, that your parental rights have already been previously terminated with respect to this minor victim. That's my understanding of the resolution, Ms. Paez. Is that your understanding of the resolution?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and Mr. Morales has indicated to me that you're going to be accepting this offer. Is that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you accepting this freely and voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Has anyone forced you or threatened you in any way to accept this offer?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Paez, do you understand that if you are not a U.S. citizen, this plea will subject you to immigration concerns, which will include being deported from this country? Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're also giving up certain constitutional rights, which I'm going to go over each of these with you. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're giving up your right to continue to plead not guilty and proceed to trial on this matter. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're giving up your right to be represented by an attorney or have one appointed for you if you cannot afford one. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're giving up a right to confront witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, and compel the attendance of witnesses at trial. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're giving up your right not to testify or incriminate yourself before this court today. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're giving up your right to require the state to prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt against you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're also giving up your right to appeal any mistakes that this court would make at trial or if a jury returned a verdict of guilty against you. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand these rights as I've explained them to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions regarding these rights?
No, Your Honor.
You understand that by changing your plea today, you're giving up all those rights and there will not be a trial in this case. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
You also understand that this may subject you to enhanced penalties if you are convicted of future criminal offenses. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
This also may subject you to involuntary civil commitment as a sexually violent predator upon completion of your sentence. If the offense to which you are pleading is a sexually violent or motivated offense, or if you've been previously convicted of such an offense. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Paez, as a condition of this resolution, you're going to be placed on, as I said before, 2 years of community control supervision, and then that will be followed by 12 years of reporting probation for a total of 14 years of some form of monitored supervision. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand, ma'am, that if you violate any of the terms and conditions of either your community control or your reporting probation, which could include the commission of any new crimes, you could find yourself back before this court for a probation violation hearing. And in that circumstance, Ms. Paez, if the state meets its burden merely by the greater weight of the evidence, I'm going to stop here for a second, Ms. Paez, because it does not require beyond a reasonable doubt. All that's required is greater weight of the evidence. And I'll tell you, honestly, when I was in law school, I found those words to be somewhat useless. What that means in layman's terms is more likely than not. That's all that the state has to do. And if the state does that, because you're not going to have a jury for that case, state is successful in that probation matter, this court can sentence you up to 40 years in state prison. Do you understand that, ma'am?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you had an opportunity, ma'am, to speak to your attorney about this offer?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has he answered all your questions?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you need more time to speak with him about it?
No, Your Honor.
You've had sufficient time to do so?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you satisfied with the legal representation and services provided to you by Mr. Morales and those of his firm?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Paez, with all of those questions answered, at this point in time, I'm holding up here in open court the original information filed in this case, charging you with the 3 counts, as well as the arrest affidavit in this case. And at this point in time, ma'am, do you wish to change your plea and plead guilty to all 3 offenses in this information, ma'am?
No, Your Honor. No, I'm sorry. Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Paez, I promise you, I'm not trying to confuse you. There's a lot of questions and a lot of things that are happening, okay? So just as I understood it, you were gonna be. As I understood it, ma'am, you were going to be pleading guilty to these 3 offenses. So I'll ask again. At this point in time, ma'am, I've asked you all the questions with respect to your constitutional rights. At this point in time, do you wish to plead guilty to all 3 offenses in this information?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you pleading guilty to these 3 offenses? Because you are in fact guilty of all 3.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense counsel reviewed all discovered, disclosed by the state.
Yes, Judge.
State defense or defendant know any physical evidence containing DNA that would exonerate the defendant?
No, Your Honor.
No.
Defense will waive PSI?
Yes. Wait.
Parties want to stipulate there's a factual basis to accept the plea.
The state so stipulates, Judge.
Stipulate so, defendant.
Ms. Paez, the court has also had an opportunity to independently review the arrest affidavit as well as the information in this case. And based on the court's independent review of these documents, as well as the stipulation by counsel, the court finds as follows. There is a factual basis to accept your plea of guilty to all 3 counts. Court further finds that you've entered your plea and waived your rights knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily, that you understand the nature of the charges against you, as well as the consequences of your plea, and that you've been represented by competent and effective assistance of counsel with whom you say you are satisfied. Accordingly, ma'am, the court will accept your plea of guilty to all 3 counts on F23-14366. The court will find you guilty of all 3 counts on this matter. The court will withhold adjudication, sentence you to 2 years community control supervision. That'll be followed by 12 years of reporting probation, special condition of the completion or maintenance of behavioral therapy until such time that the medical provider deems it unnecessary for you to proceed. You'll be required to maintain a job score and maintaining employment through that program. Court will also require you to undergo a mental health evaluation and treatment if it's deemed necessary. Tamika, I think that the date of birth here is incorrect. Folks, you'll correct me. I think it's 2020.
Yes, Your Honor. My apologies. I whispered to the clerk and I told her I needed to correct that.
I saw it and I'm gonna change the date or the year here.
That was my fault, Judge. Sorry.
I'm gonna put my initials next to the correction. The court is going to be executing a stay away order, Ms. Paez, directing you to stay away from the minor with the initials of CP. Do you understand? You may not come within 500 feet of the minor child. You may not come within 500 feet of that child, their child's residence, place of employment, school, or their home, their place of employment and or school. Do you understand? You may not have any direct nor indirect contact with that child through third persons, social media, or any other electronic means, including text and email. Do you understand? You may not engage in any criminal activity. Do you understand? You may not use or possess any illegal drugs. Do you understand? You may not use, purchase, possess, or carry any gun, weapon, ammunition, or firearm. Do you understand?
Yes.
I'm going to put my initials next to the correction. The court is going to be executing a stay away order, Ms. Paez, directing you to stay away from the minor with the initials of CP. Do you understand? You may not come within 500 feet of the minor child. You may not come within 500 feet of that child, their child's residence, place of employment, school, or their home, their place of employment and or school. Do you understand? You may not have any direct nor indirect contact with that child through third persons, social media, or any other electronic means, including text and email. Do you understand? You may not engage in any criminal activity. Do you understand? You may not use or possess any illegal drugs. Do you understand? You may not use, purchase, possess. Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay, guys, it seems like it goes mute here for a minute. Let's just make sure. I'm not really sure what happened at the end, but it's giving it went mute. And that was it. That was it. That's all. He put his initials. Let's hear the
weapon and firearm. Do you understand?
Yes.
then that was it. It's quiet after that. Anyway, this is like I said, this is a really sad set of circumstances. I'm not gonna lie. I think that this is just really horrible. You heard the prosecutor mention that there could have been something incestuous, possibly. We don't know that it was the father per se, could have been anybody in the family, but there was some sort of familial tie here. Also, I saw something in some comments related towards that, so I'm not really sure, but I am not necessarily like I feel like they made a good decision, and she seems to be qualified for this particular sentencing. So I guess we're going to just have to see how this pans out in the future. Again, really sad for the child because there is a boy who was affected by this, and really, really sad all the way around. But sounds like he's protected. He's with his grandmother. Hopefully, grandma is taking great care of him, and this girl's going to get herself all the help that she needs. Seems like they put all the systems in place for that to happen. Anyway, guys, make sure to subscribe to this channel. If you're not, make sure to set your notifications so you can be notified in the future every time I post. And I will see you next time. Take care, guys.